2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn. Don't call me by my name. Let's talk about this game. Well, not that game. Good Lord, you don't want to talk about that beatdown that the Panthers suffered at the hands of the Atlanta Falcons. No touchdowns on the board and just a bunch of egg on the face of Panther fans across America as they got to listen to these stupid-ass Falcons fans gloat and gloat when their team is absolute trash as well. And what we're in right now is kind of a sort of therapy moment. We have worked a little bit of the anger issues out in the post game. We're trying to move through the acceptance stage. But I think, Cody, you mentioned to me in the post game that it's about the healing phase and thinking about how tomorrow, or what it can be, or what it will be. We'll be deep diving a little bit into that, what the future holds for the Carolina Panthers. And I'm going to do that with one of my best of buds, Cody Lashley, in the house. My friend, how are you?
Tony Dunn, calm waters have never made for skilled sailors. Us Panther fans are finding that out the hard way. But hey, man, this is like, I call it CPA, Carolina Panthers Anonymous. We're going to work through this together, and we're going to do it with the best Panther fans on the YouTube chat, joining us every Tuesday and every Sunday. Tin Tizzy, Jake DeLome, Trill One, Underground West, Michael Jones, Richard's Outdoor World. Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, my brother. Let's roll.
Is it possible that the actual audio is working fine at this point? I love it. We got...
Don't jinx it, man. Don't jinx it.
Holy cow. Which is crazy. It's crazy because my wife left town. It has been an absolute shit show of a week with just how much stuff is going on for this family. And then I want to bring this up to listeners who are part of the C3 Fantasy Football League. I have not forgotten about the league. And I believe the playoffs start this weekend. I've got to put the bracket together. They start a week earlier than traditional fantasy football leagues because we have a extra round where cats get a bye. And to have that bye and make sure that you're not playing people in week 17 before the teams quit, we start. So I'm going to chop all that up, and all that information is going to be flying at you. All the prizes are going to be coming at you. And so just continue to bear with me as I figure out this thing called life with you guys. Well, go ahead and subscribe to the show. Smash the thumbs up button. Help grow Panther Nation together with us, with the longest running Panthers podcast out there. And the best way to do it is one share at a time, one angry tweet at a time, or whatever. Tell people about the show and how they can be a part of this community, have their voice heard when it comes to Panther Nation. Call into the Cat Calls line. The number's 252-228-5098. And I guess, like you said, there ain't nothing to do but to do it. Nothing to it but to do it.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it.
All right, let's do it.
To it but to do it.
What is tonight's show? I wrote it down. Tonight's show is, I don't even know what the name of it is. Gosh, I had a good show too. I had a good show title. Something to the effect of, bear with me. Don't bear with me. Y'all don't care. Y'all just be like, these guys suck. Meet the Press. Meet the Press, and it's no trip to the Rivera. That is what my title is. And the reason I busted out this title, Cody, Meet the Press, and it's no trip to the Rivera, is first, it's hinting on David Tepper met with the press yesterday. I believe it was yesterday or the day before.
Yes.
After this demoralizing loss, he saw what happened on that game. Obviously, he saw what happened on that field. He saw what the fans did, the lack of, the almost apathy to the situation, I feel like. And they saw the anger and the outpour afterwards. David Tepper meets with the press. Cody, what have you gathered from this meeting? What have you heard?
Well, so there's something that I found funny, because David Tepper came out and he basically did something of a closed-door session for people in the media. And he said a few things, and it almost makes me think that David Tepper, maybe he doesn't listen to this podcast. Maybe he listens to another podcast.
Didn't you see me hanging out with him before the game? Of course he listens to this damn podcast.
You should have told him, man. You should have said, hey, you gotta check out the C3 podcast, man. How awesome would have been if we could have got a David Tepper interview?
Oh, I know.
That would have been crazy. I might send you up, Tony.
We would have been asking about stock advice.
Yeah, really. And asking for loans and shit. But but there were some interesting tidbits that came out. And one of the words that David Tepper said is that the Panthers will never settle for mediocrity. And it's funny that he said that word specifically, because that's kind of what we've been saying, isn't it? That the Panthers were never bad enough to have a high draft pick, to have the kind of draft to overhaul the foundation of your football team, but we're not good enough to make a run into the playoffs. It's kind of the criticism that we've echoed on our football team, that we're middle of the road. It's Tony Dunn's mustache. We've seen the best version of it that we're ever going to see. So it's kind of time to move on. Now, that's what you and I feel. He didn't say so many words, but it does appear that David Tepper knows that the fan base is upset. And I don't know, man. From what you read of the different media members and the stuff they put on Twitter, what did you feel from David Tepper's comments?
All right, so number one, I think this is that I like how Tepper admits to being a sort of fan, right? And he comes out and he says this: every time we have a loss, my mood is shitty. So welcome to the fucking club, right? Or all of our moods are shitty every time we lose, right? But I like a guy that is emotionally tied to the team. And I like a guy who has also got enough balls to weather storms, so where he doesn't allow his emotions, they're a part of his life, but they don't dictate his life. So right. I like that and I respect that. Now, one of the things, though, is, to me, this was remarkably concerning if you were Ron Rivera. And that is to hold a meeting with the press after a loss like this and basically saying that we got smoked and that can't happen because we've been smoked too many times already this season. Pretty much tells me is my man has had his fill. He's had his limit when it comes to taking this. And I got to believe that means Ron Rivera is out of here.
So I told you I was going to be radio silent for a minute, but
He's
I had
here.
to interject for a second.
Yeah, come on.
CK, ladies and gentlemen.
How's it going, guys? I'm still in my car. I'll be there, and you'll be able to see my beautiful face in a minute. But one key point to this that I think everybody hasn't pointed out is he said he will not accept long-term mediocrity, which in my opinion is the definition of Ron Rivera. And I think that is even more damning, just adding that long-term mediocrity, because that indicates that not only does he realize as a logical owner of a team that they're expecting a coach to come in year one and make it to the playoffs or even to the Super Bowl is going to be a long shot. So he's realizing that there may be mediocrity even beyond this season. And I think he's setting Panthers fans up for that possibility.
He did say he was comfortable with losing for a little while if that meant bringing success in.
So from Scott Fowler, Tepper seemed most concerned about the Panthers' long-term mediocrity. Reinforced several times that the team is slightly below 500 in a 25-year period, and that just wasn't acceptable. Tepper went on to say that the Panthers have never had 2 winning seasons in a row. He brought that up himself. One of the meetings pre-established ground rules, no questions about the long-term future of head coach Ron Rivera or general manager Marty Hurney.
Which means your asses are fired, dude.
David Tepper wasn't trying to let us know what we wanted to know.
I'll tell you what I gather from the position, Cody, is that what I think where it comes to Ron Rivera, as I've continued to try to defend and rationalize, not just throwing the baby out with the bathwater every time something goes bad, but right now we're just not as good as we think we should be.
No.
Even with a backup quarterback, I think, and maybe Kyle Allen gave us unwarranted hopes in a way. But the idea is it's okay to lose to the Falcons, who are a bad team, by 3. A couple of things go wrong, and you blew it. But to get just blown, we're getting kicked in the face, man. And it's these so lopsided losses that it looks like you just came to work unprepared. Even if it's not the case, it just looks that way. If you go into a sales meeting and you give a presentation and everything craps out, the technology, this and that, things happen that were bad, and that's terrible. But at the end of the day, you weren't prepared. And I think that's where it comes down to. And I think that's what you have been saying on this show, Cody, is that at this point, who really gives a shit if Ron Rivera's a good coach or a bad coach? He ain't getting the job done. Yeah,
he's not getting the job done. And Tony, I don't know if you're ready to play these clips or not, but I caught a little bit of Colin Cowherd's show today, and they had Mark Schlereth on the show, and he mentioned something, and as soon as I heard him say it, I'm like, oh my God, we have to get this on the show tonight.
Do you want to start with the second clip you sent me, or the first one that starts with Colin Cowherd?
If you could start that first clip at 12 seconds.
Oh God, I can't do it like that. Here,
all right, well, then that's fine.
This is what we got. I'll show you what we got.
Well, Let's see. Well, hold on. Don't play it yet. But before we go into it, let me get your opinion on this. Did you think that we have holes and problems on our offensive line? That there are real areas of concern about this offensive line?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, that's a very reasonable thing to say, right? I want you to listen to what Mark says in this interview, and then I want to tell you how it applies to the Carolina Panthers.
All right, let's see if this works. If this is... because I recorded.
You'll have to bear a moment of Colin Cowherd. Yes, I apologize.
Here.
When we have to dictate in the running game, not popping a draw on 3rd and 6 for 30 yards.
I think it's before this.
Let's dictate and change to people. The league is shifting. It is. There's this how to put a game plan together that protects those guys and yet is still dynamic. And the league is shifting. It is. There's this cyclical change that people are looking at and going, we better start to learn how to dictate in situational football when we have to dictate in the running game. Not popping a draw on 3rd and 6 for 30 yards and going, look, let's celebrate. We know how to run the ball. No, you don't. You got to be able to run it down when you can. When 3rd down and 2, you better know how to run the ball. 8-man fronts, 9-man fronts, that's all you see when you get in the red zone. You damn well better understand how to run the ball in those situations. And if you don't, you're not a very good football team.
When I think of a running team, I think...
And in my mind, he said a mouthful right there.
All right, here.
One about... Yeah, okay, so play one more. Play the next one that starts with Colin Cowherd.
And they're winning, but it's like... Philip Rivers had 6 picks in those games.
Right. You know what's interesting about that? You go statistically, show me the top 5 teams as far as run percentage is concerned. The percentage of times they run the football. Because you can fix O-line issues. This is where I would disagree with you. You can fix O-line issues if you have a coach that understands O-line problems.
Boom.
You have to be intelligent enough to know what the issues are.
Now, you can pretty much stop it right there. Because what he's saying is, if you have offensive line issues, every team in the NFL has offensive line issues. Greg, who can't join us tonight, but what has been saying, they're not allowed to practice as much and as hard as the NFL used to. And the offensive line, specifically as a position group, you need so much time and practice in order to get good at playing the offensive line position. So naturally, you're going to have holes and areas of weakness amongst your offensive line. The Carolina Panthers have holes, but Ron Rivera is not the kind of coach that can help us to better our offensive.
Well, we really need to be talking about Norv Turner on this.
Those holes.
We need to be talking about Norv Turner on this, not Ron Rivera.
Well, it is Norv Turner, but it's also Ron Rivera as the head coach has to be able to pull out the trump card and say, hey, listen, what we're doing is not working. Greg Williams is being pushed back into the quarterback ad nauseum. Darrell Williams is a terrible tackle. We're talking about personnel and how our coaches don't know where the weaknesses are on our football team. Because if they did, you wouldn't see players like Darrell Williams at left tackle all the time.
Well, I mean, you are limited to the personnel you have, right? I think this is that I don't think the O-line has been as bad as people make it out to be. It was bad in that game. I think that Greg Little had a rough outing in his first day back at work, and it was a very, very rough game. Now, to the point where people on Twitter are saying that he's a bust. But I feel like in week 1 or whatever, or week 2 when he was playing, we were all celebrating how good he looked as a rookie, and then he took 8 weeks off because of concussions, and he comes back, he's just getting smoked. Taylor Moton was getting smoked. Darrell Williams getting smoked. Nothing was going well there. I don't know if our line is worse,
Trey Turner hasn't looked well.
He hasn't looked good in 2 years, man.
How about this? Darrell Williams played better at right guard than Trey Turner has been playing for us at the position. That's not a good thing, man. I think going into the season, we thought that our best 2 offensive linemen, or the best 3 really, were Moton, Paradis, and Trey Turner. And I feel comfortable saying that they've been very disappointing the past few weeks in a row now.
Trey Turner hasn't been, he's been living off of the Pro Bowl reputation for a couple of years now. Now, it's hard to assess if it was just him or if it was not having the resources around him that made things more difficult. But this unit played bad on Sunday. And one of the things, though, going to this point is we know that the coaching staff can do this. We've seen them do it. We saw them do it against Texas. We saw them do it against the Titans. Like, we've had moments where we recognized, where it was like this, oh, we got Dennis Daly. We can't leave him on the island. But then what we did is, as I would say, we left these guys on an island, but we didn't. They just got beat individually. All these guys were just getting beat like a drum all day in that game. It was like they were not expecting these guys to be good. And that is irritating. And I don't know if, is that at the end of the day, is that we didn't look competitive. Now, I didn't like what Mark Schlereth is saying, though, at the beginning, at one point, where he's saying ultimately that you have to force the run game and this and that. And if you look at teams that can't run the ball, it's because they throw the ball too much. Really, teams are bad that have bad offensive lines. But also, bad teams have trouble running the ball because they're in long distance situations and down 14 points, down 20 points. We could not. They dared us to run in that game, and we were somewhat effective. But they also dared us to throw, and we were not effective. And you looked at it. Do you go back and look at the game tape? I was watching it today from the coach's tape, and they are just stuffing dudes in the box. There was no fear that we could beat them downfield. And I think it was a combination of who the quarterback is and how they thought that they could get to the quarterback.
Yeah, and you know what else it was? They bet on their pass rushers against our tackles.
Yeah.
And they were like, listen, we're gonna stop the run. We're gonna make Kyle Allen throw the ball, and it's gonna be a comedy of errors. I've been saying this, and I even have some stats in the absence of stat data that we can go over. But Kyle Allen does not manage the pocket well. And there was even a time, and I mentioned this, where it's like Taylor Moton jumped into the sack after, or Kyle Allen jumped into the sack after Taylor Moton got beat. And you're supposed to help out your tackle and move into the pocket. On top of that, you have the Panthers, and we don't know who's playing right tackle, who's playing left tackle from Sunday to Sunday. It's a combination of Taylor Moton, Greg Little, Dennis Daly, Daryl Williams. It's a revolving door. There's no cohesion on that offensive line. So, yeah, if you're the Falcons, why wouldn't you pin your ears back and rush the passer? And that's what they did. And we're making their defense, which has been abysmal all year, look like a Pro Bowl caliber, a Pro Bowl defensive line.
All right, let's listen to this. I tried clipping it before the show, but it didn't save, and it just recorded me talking to my daughters, helping them with math homework. So I'm going to play parts of the Ron Rivera interview. Bear with me as we skip around and try to find the spot that I want to find here, and it's going to make me listen to this ad real quick. What I want.
By the way, shout out real quick to Susan Deans for the $14.99 love bomb. We love you, Susan. Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you, Susan, for your support and being a great Panther fan. She's out there mustering it. All right, let me see if this is it.
Has enabled you to because of the opponent you're playing?
All right, this is them. This is them talking about what happened to the offensive line, and this is Ron Rivera here.
They're doing our jobs.
What was the specific problem with the offensive line yesterday in protection?
Well, there's some things that happen because of
no, they can't
the opponent
hear
you're
it.
playing.
You guys can't hear
yeah,
it.
Sometimes some
it's
things
very
happen
low
because
for
of
me.
All right, here we go.
Getting
now I hear it.
to doing our jobs.
What was the specific problem with the offensive line yesterday in protection?
Well, there's some things that happen because of the opponent you're playing. Sometimes some things happen because of getting beat individually, not using technique, not falling back on the things that you've been taught. That's part of it.
All right. This is where I have soured on Ron Rivera. This subtle thing, at the end of the day, he's like, our guys got beat, right? Just individually beat, and they got beat because they aren't doing what they have learned, which indicates to me that you believe you don't have any responsibility in their failure to be sound in their technique. And this is something I feel like you have emphasized a lot, Cody, and that we have, in our back and forth argument between execution and, play calling versus execution, coaching versus execution, it is always a combination of both, right? You can't make the tackle for the player on the field, But what I feel like is ever since we made it to the Super Bowl, dude, that Ron Rivera has had this kind of thing like what we do on our side is sound. And what you guys, when the failure comes, it's because the players aren't doing what we taught them. And he said what they learned, right? And it's just so like, well, we told you to block the guy, and you didn't block him.
Yeah, it's a systematic thing at that point in time. When you see the same problems over and over and over and over again, it starts from the very top. It always does, and that's the way it's always going to be. I mean, there are certain fundamentals that your team has to have drilled into them. And for a while, I thought this was one of Ron Rivera's strong points. You know, he always talks about how he gets advice from John Madden. And John Madden told him that at the beginning of every season, you have to start over brand new every year and start from scratch. And while Ron says that, it really does seem like from season to season, a lot of the players are either starting to tune him out or they don't work as hard for him anymore. I don't know what the problem specifically is. If they're not teaching the right drills, I don't know what it is, but there is a level of discipline that the Carolina Panthers just lack. It isn't there. And it hasn't been there for over 2 years now. This season is such a mirror of last year for us.
It's not supposed to be that way. It's not supposed to be that way.
It's not supposed to be that way at all. And it's been that way for, 2 years now? The same problems that we had with our defense last year, now it's the same way. We're not getting home with our pass rush. We're not defending the run very well. We're not tackling very well. There are blown assignments and coverage all the time. I mean, at what point is your team not being coached well? And that's what we've been saying for a very long time.
And CK said it when he was coming in talking about the mediocrity point, and that is the kind of the idea is, to me, what I'm seeing is there's not an answer from Ron Rivera. There just isn't an answer. Like it's like, well, we did, like this happens, and it's not even. And look, I don't need him throwing players under the bus. I think he's actually doing some really right things when it comes to how to speak about Greg Little and his struggles. Maybe a little less about Darrell Williams. They have this. This is. Wait till you hear this comment. Listen to what he says about Darrell Williams. This is funny. Here, let me see if it's about right. Let me see here if it's the next.
What was the specific problem with the offensive line?
Part of it.
Roger McCoy said when he came here that one of the reasons he came here was his team.
It might be later.
You know, we play the Saints twice. We got another shot at Atlanta. We got to come and practice and play. And again, just young guys.
Ron, those guys are certainly the young guys.
Here it is.
Darrell, with the veteran, I know he's coming off injury. What is it about him this year that just hadn't been able to play?
I think really just with him, it's just been opportunities more so than anything else. You know, we've had him a little bit out of position. He's played left tackle. He's played right guard, left
this
guard.
This doesn't make any sense to me.
And again, I just think with Darrell, it's just getting more and more playing time. You come off the injury he did with the surgery he had, and it's just one of those things that the more he plays, the better off he'll be.
Ron, you've said before that Kyle's a little...
Who believes that dumb shit? Hey, maybe if we leave him out there a little bit longer, maybe after he gets his ass kicked a few more times, maybe he'll be a better player than what his entire career has shown us.
Or how about this, is that, well, he just really hasn't had reps at a position yet because he wasn't good at the positions you made him play. You put him out there at left tackle, and then you put him out at right tackle yesterday. He's only a guard. He is a guard.
Have you ever heard the saying, you're only as strong as your weakest link?
Yeah.
Okay, so we continue to put Darrell Williams there, and then once he gets attacked, that's the hole in our offensive line. Then our entire offensive line crumbles. I mean, it's to the point now where this is to the detriment of our team. As soon as they took Taylor Moton out of the game after he let up that sack from Vic Beasley. They immediately put in Darrell Williams, and then Takk McKinley just blows the hell up.
And what about asshole
Daryl
Tack
Williams.
McKinley talking junk? Did you see him talking junk on Twitter?
Yeah, I retweeted it. Yeah.
It's messed up, though, because that was his first sack of the season.
Yeah, but I think any way to pinpoint Daryl Williams being just a trash can player that
he's not bad at guard, dude. He played fine with Turner out, and he played at right guard.
That's a good point.
And I think this, and what's really funny is when Ron Rivera gets frustrated with Taylor Moton for giving up 2 sacks in a row, because one was a sack and one was an interception. And Moton got blown by, just right on by. It looked like the same thing that happened to Greg Williams twice on the other side, is he got one hand on him, but that ain't enough. And I like how Ron Rivera puts him in timeout and then puts in a guy that's worse. It's like, take that, Moton. We're going to show you. Look at what Daryl Williams can't do. CK, David Tepper, talking about the team. Any thoughts before about what you've heard since Sunday?
Yeah.
About just where you're at.
So, before the show, I said, I've had some time to kind of sit back and think about some things and, where I feel about coaching outside of the game even. I'm just thinking about how the fans reacted to Kyle Allen and how the fans continue to just have this visceral reaction to when he does anything bad. And what I think the reason my frustration has started to kind of creep in is it took David Tepper seeing the fans react the way they did before he stepped in and he made his statement about Cam, saying that he would like to see Cam back here and would like to see Cam be a Carolina Panther for a long time. But he did also put the caveat, he's got to be best for both sides. But here's my problem. Here's where my frustration lies. I don't think we've ever seen a more divisive Carolina Panthers fan base as we do right now. And what has happened is this front office, this coaching staff, and everybody has let the media, let the fans run with this narrative that Kyle Allen is the future of the Carolina Panthers. They have not stepped in. They have not made a decision. They have not made any committal decision on who they think is going to be the future of this franchise, right? And what that's allowed is this just hatred among fans for either Cam Newton or Kyle Allen. And what that creates is if one does something wrong, well, now all of a sudden you have the fan base saying, see, he did something wrong. And it's a win-lose situation, or lose-lose really. And what my frustration has been as the leaders of this team, you have to be able to say, hey, listen, this is his team. And they did that, but they didn't do it well enough to where the media was willing to say, okay, it's his. They let this just giant narrative blow up to where people are now thinking, oh gosh, Cam Newton's going to be released in the offseason. And now people are going to be looking at Kyle Allen, and he is so scrutinized. He's a backup quarterback. He is a backup quarterback, guys. And they're sitting there putting this all on Kyle Allen. Yeah, it's his fault. But at the same time, he's a backup quarterback. Nobody expected him to do anything.
No, you expected us to be 0-16 if he's the quarterback.
Exactly.
I do want to say shame on Scott Fowler for this. To me, is that there is a certain old group of media members, and it is the Scott Fowler type, and it actually is a little bit of the David Newton, but I feel like it is Scott Fowler who all of a sudden, anytime a Cam negative story could surface, they find it really opportunistic to make a big stand on it. Because we know negativity sells in news more than positivity, right? And so when you have a newspaper guy who barely covers the team, who is retired, like he used to cover the team, but since the Charlotte Observer is about to fold, right, is that now you've got the old hats where you're paying them part-time. They don't make him travel. They don't make him. He just goes to the local stuff, and he writes a couple of pieces, and he has an opportunity to get a lot of clicks because he never probably supported Cam anyway. He's kind of and I think it's opportunistic, and I think that you are making a great point that if you don't cut off that it kind of grows and festers and thrives on its own when it shouldn't. And I think that's part of the reason I have soured on Ron Rivera, is I actually don't think he has bad interest for players in mind. I actually don't think he's a bad coach. But at this point, this weird mixed messages we get on everything, I distrust him now.
Yeah.
When I don't want
trust a single
to.
thing.
Yeah, I don't trust him. Yeah.
Like, I don't trust him at all. And, when we talk about the narrative that they just let fester, I think this season, that game in Atlanta, when you see them going off of the field on halftime, just booing because Kyle Allen threw that interception, I think Tepper realized at that moment in time, there is a reason these seats are empty, right? Even before we started to go behind, that was still a pretty empty stadium. There is a reason, and it's because you have allowed this just line down the middle to be drawn of where people have to defend Cam Newton or they have to attack him. There is no middle ground. There is no ability to say, I really hope Kyle does well, but we want Cam Newton back still. You're sitting there still, there is no situation. Even if you go back and look at the film outside of that Arizona game, there is no film that would lead you to believe that Kyle Allen has the ability to be a franchise quarterback.
And we really, and if the people in charge of this organization really think that you can move forward in a serious manner with that, then we got real problems. We got bigger problems than we ever thought. And I don't think they even think that. I think they were worried about shaking the kid's confidence, and they're probably slightly frustrated with Cam. We don't know what's going on with Cam, and we don't know what their relationship is. And it looks like Cam has been a great team player to this point. But at some point, when does frustration set for him between these guys? I don't know. And we don't know. And they should let us know that we shouldn't worry about it. That's what they should be saying. And now, is there any concern that Cam is not around the team? I have not seen anything, let me rephrase.
On the sideline.
Or, I don't even want him on the sideline. What if, why isn't he in the box with Tepper?
I mean, I really don't know at this point. And
so what does that tell us, though? Does it tell us and I don't think it has to be a negative thing about Cam.
I don't know that it tells us anything. I mean, what does him being there tell us or not tell us?
That him and the team are interested in walking together in the future.
That's my thing, is if I don't see Cam there, you see him there and you see him supporting Kyle Allen through social media, but the fact that the team has made a clear purge of Cam Newton. Yeah. What I mean by that, there is no Cam Newton love on their social media. There is no Cam Newton articles. It's all about Kyle Allen and moving forward, which I get. You don't want to sit there and live in the past, but at the same time, I think that our organization has made Cam not want to be here. And I hate to say that, but if Cam wanted to be there, he'd be in that box with Tepper. I'm telling you. If he wanted to be there, he'd do that.
I agree.
And that's my fear.
I agree.
That's my fears. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to sit there and see the fans, that are, not wanting him to be back. Because, I mean, once again, if we see it, he sees it. Everything he posts on social media, somebody's talking about Kyle Allen's better, or, you're trash. You should have dove on the fumble in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just, I know it's every player and every team has this same type of hate, but it just seems like Cam Newton, as much as he's done for this organization, gets not nearly enough love that he should be getting, because he has been the only bright spot on our team up until Christian McCaffrey came for the past decade. So then
are we saying that we feel like Cam Newton doesn't want to be around the Carolina Panthers, and this is his sign of saying, hey, I'm not going to be here next year?
No, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would worry that he is getting colder. That he is getting colder to our organization. Yeah, that's what my fear is.
If that's what we're alluding to, that he's colder to the organization and he feels kind of stiffed, so he's kind of returning the favor back at them. I mean, it's entirely possible that that's what's happening. I just don't know that we have enough full information.
No,
okay, I agree.
To say that yet.
I agree, but here I think you're reading it a little different than we are, Cody, and that is that you're thinking, or you're kind of coming from the angle that we're trying to make a judgment about what we know about Cam. And all I know, what I'm more about trying to make a judgment is about what the organization wants. And if I was worried about my future with a team a little bit and a player, how much would it mean to me if I was Cam and Tepper says, I want you with me at the game? It's not that I want you to make a public appearance. An authentic thing is that you're part of the organization, you're part of this family, you're part of our future, and while you're hurt, you still mean a lot to us. And I could almost see Cam waiting for that sort of olive branch. Like, I want you to come to me and do these things.
I just feel, and then, okay, so I tried to find the tweet, the exact words that were used, but apparently David Tepper reiterated that he wants Cam Newton to come back healthy and win Super Bowls here in Carolina. But then he also apparently said, and that's the thing, you don't know what exactly was said because you have a bunch of reporters tweeting out their own little quotes of things that he said, and they're all different in varying ways. But then he said that everyone's basically going to do what's best for themselves, and that they're going to reevaluate Cam Newton when he's healthy and when his foot is ready to go. I don't know, man. And I know I'm speaking to the choir with you two and everyone in the chat room, but everyone mentions the Bears and now the Chargers. And, Cam Newton is going to be the answer for this football team if you ship him to Denver or Chicago. Well, my thing is this. If Cam Newton is the answer for any one of those football teams, then he's damn sure still the answer for the Carolina Panthers.
We want the Panthers to say that.
Yeah, that's my problem. I want the Panthers to come out.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to say that, there is no quarterback controversy right now. Kyle Allen is leading this team, and that's all we need to really worry about as far as this season is concerned. But to let this narrative continue that Cam Newton is going to be signing somewhere else next year is just is the frustrating part about it, because it's actually pretty hilarious after this game, and Tony, you alluded to it on the podcast on the post game, is it took Kyle Allen having a game like he had this go round for them to realize that Cam Newton actually does need to be here, because every article I've read about the Carolina Panthers has now said, maybe we jumped the gun on this. Kyle Allen is better than Cam Newton train. And
the national media coming out and going, look at this offensive line and all the things we said. Maybe. All right, guys, we have we thought we were going to keep this part short, but we don't keep anything short on the C3 Panthers podcast. We're 45 minutes into the show. We've got a great conversation going tonight in the chat room. We thank you for your support. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button and be a part of the show. Call into the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. That is 252-228-5098. Let's get into these calls and see what they got.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like...
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
All right.
Good evening and good morning. This is James Peric Monfils Evangelista reporting to you live from Houston, Texas. Space City Riot, stand up.
Dang.
I watch you guys all the time.
Let's go.
I'm not really a caller, but I felt like it was time for me to call in and say something. And I'm not going to get on the Kyle Allen, Cam Newton thing, because I said everything I needed to say about that weeks ago, and I couldn't get two words out without someone accusing me of being a Cam Newton lover and a Kyle Allen hater. Even back in the glory
it's a condition.
5-0 and no interceptions, I kept saying, this guy's just average. I don't know what you're looking at. But anyway, move on. There were two things I felt like needed to be said. Number one, the concept of us tanking the season for a high draft pick, that is mute. That doesn't need to be discussed. Right now, looking at the standings of the NFL, even if we lost out, we're not going to do better than a 10th or 11th round pick. So just for morale's sake, as someone who is the leaders of one of the local chapters of Roaring Riot and wants people to still come out and have fun and watch the games together as a group, I think they need to keep trying to win games. Realistically, right now, we finish anywhere between 6-10 or 9-7. We're still going to end up with a draft pick around 13, 14, 15, or 16. So that's just where we're stuck. We're in purgatory there. Point number two that I wanted to make is about Ron Rivera staying as the coach. I believe, based on what I've seen, that Ron Rivera and Cam Newton are married. If Cam stays, Ron stays. If Cam goes, Ron needs to go. I don't see Ron having success with another quarterback, and I don't see Cam having success in Carolina with another coach other than Ron Rivera. That's just the way I see it. You guys keep pounding, keep doing your show. You guys are amazing. One of the best things on YouTube, and I'll keep watching. Once again, this is James Barry. Come on, Peace Events. Alisa, you'll more than likely see me in the comments writing before you hear my voice again. Keep pounding.
Heck yeah. What a fantastic...
James Evangelista.
I know.
Awesome,
what a fantastic call. And I agree with on a couple levels. I disagree on one, but let's go through point by point. This deserves our attention. The first point that he made was the Kyle Allen, and we have said this so much on the podcast. It sucks, and CK led with this. It sucks to be in a position where you can't, we can't marginally root for Kyle Allen without it being a referendum on Cam Newton, or we can't say that we don't believe Kyle Allen to be a true future quarterback without it being some sort of weird relationship. It's just this weird relationship that ensues. And I was thinking about it earlier today, is that Kyle Allen is, if you think, and ladies, close your ears if you don't like to hear the locker room talk, but we got a president who said it was okay, so I'm locker room talking it. And the idea is that Kyle Allen is a girl you sleep with, but you don't marry.
Yeah.
Is that and that's not anything wrong with that girl. She could be pretty, she could have a decent person, but it's just not right for you. It's just not right for the long. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't have things to offer.
Yeah.
Just because you don't want to marry someone doesn't mean you can't have a good weekend in Cabo.
Listen, can we talk about this? Kyle Allen went undrafted. And then I was reminded of something that I had forgotten about. The Panthers let go of Kyle Allen, and Kyle Allen spent something like 13 days with the Jets. And then the Jets released Kyle Allen, and we picked him up back on our practice squad. Another thing to consider is last year, do you know when Cam Newton was finally pulled, who did we have as our backup quarterback behind Cam Newton last year?
Heineke and Allen.
But Taylor Heineke was ahead of Kyle Allen, was he not?
Yep.
Okay, so we have an undrafted free agent that we didn't commit the backup job to last year. And meanwhile, we have a third-round pick. And again, I will say this. There is no way that you can tell me that Will Grier was not drafted for this exact scenario where Cam Newton is not healthy, not able to play, and they need a big play quarterback to come in and fill the role. You spent a third-round pick on a quarterback when you could have drafted a safety, another offensive lineman, and yet you decided to draft a quarterback, and you're not going to at least see what kind of player you have. I mean, I don't even want to hear you might mess him up for life and he'll play so bad and he'll never live up to his potential. That's not how this works, man. You spent a third-round draft pick on a quarterback. Why not let him learn and play and learn on the job the rest of the year as you've already done with Kyle Allen?
Let's hear what Ron has to say on it. This is what Ron had to say when he's asked. Let me see if this is it. I'm going to guess.
Expect him to learn from this, take something from this, and and I expect him to come out and play well next week.
Can you characterize that conversation a little bit more? What was your message to him? What was the nature of the conversation?
Learn from the experience he just had.
Learn, boy.
Take the good with the bad. I mean, again, it's one of these things that we have a young guy who's going to grow and develop, and the only way that happens is by playing, and we have to accept that. We're going to take the good with the bad. But he's done a great job for us, and I just think with him and with who he is, he'll bounce back. I think he's a very resilient young man.
He seems like a guy that's really honest with himself and tough on himself, but at the same time, how do you do that and then not, all right, let's stop.
Hold on. All right, now let's hear what he's got to say about
right now. And it's one of those things.
So he's asked right here
as the two, though,
about Greer.
Or is it just all about Kyle because he's young?
It's really all about Kyle right now, and it's one of those things that we appreciate the work that Will does on the field and in the classroom, because that's really where you learn. The thing that's interesting about it is that's was one of the things about having a guy like Derek Anderson around for as long as we had. Here was a veteran guy that really didn't need any reps, because he had been doing it for so long, and he'd been in a system like this for such a long time. So it's tough. It's a fine balance in terms of developing young quarterbacks when you got two of them. But you've got to make sure your starter's getting the bulk of the work.
Ron,
all right. There, to me, doesn't sound like any interest in developing Will Greer, and and maybe that's the case, and maybe him and Hurney are on different pages at this, and he doesn't see Will Greer as a means to winning any games immediately. Now, going on to the next part of the call, he said this, though, is that he, and I thought this was interesting about the tanking part. I am anti-tank, all right? And I'm anti-tank in any case whatsoever, unless it's like the last game of the season, and if you losing could tremendously change you getting, maybe you put in the young kids and you tank by default, right? But what my fear with tanking, guy, is there's a great podcast, Serial, if you listen to it, and the third season is arguably my favorite season, and they look at the justice system in Cincinnati, and they call it this. They say if you get in a felony, they say you got the stink. And it's like this. It's like once you get in the system, everybody you're like Pigpen. You just got to stink about you now. Even if you don't deserve it, even if you did the right things, the stink is with you. And I'm worried that if you tank at any moment, even if it's just one time, you get the stink. It's a cultural stink. It's a part of it's like deep into your DNA. And I can't handle that, dude. I can't handle a team that gets like that, that's so broken, like the Browns, the Dolphins. Those guys have been tanking for 20 years. What has it got them?
Yeah, that's the part. That was the point I was going to make, is how often do these teams that aren't good end up getting high draft picks every single year, and they just can't ever put it together? It never fails. There is the rare occasion where, for instance, we had the number one pick with Cam Newton, but
because we actually stunk. We actually stunk.
Yeah.
You don't try to be bad. You are bad.
Yeah. And so I don't think that, you can't say that about the Browns. The Browns have always had talent. They just have never been able to put the talent and have those pieces work cohesively together. So it is interesting. I have a statement on his last point, but I'll let Cody take it from here.
Well, tanking, you have to understand, it's not something that the players do. Because the players, they're trying to put good film on tape. I mean, these are guys, even if they don't play with this team, they're going to play for someone else next year. So it doesn't ever behoove them to play worse or tank for the organization that they might not even be with next year. So, yes, I completely agree with that. You never want to tank. But like what you see the Dolphins doing is they're trading away players pretty much left and right and not leaving the coaching staff much to even deal with. So I think that's the disconnect. Tanking never happens on the field or with their coaches. It's always in the front office.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is this, man, and, Tony and I kind of talked about this before, is we are so close to a rebuild, and people don't even know it. The amount of players that we have to pay within the next 2 years, I'll just mention a few of them. Gerald McCoy, Mario Addison.
Stop. When you mention them, Cody, say, do you want them back in the future? Just yes or no, Cody. CK, you answer it. Cody, say the list.
All right, Gerald McCoy.
No.
Mario Addison.
Yes.
He's 34. Okay.
I don't want to pay. I don't want to lump. I think he's going to come back for a nice, team friendly deal. But
32. Okay. Bruce Irvin.
No.
Shaq Thompson.
Yes.
Trey Boston.
No.
James Bradbury.
Yes.
Greg Van Root. And by the way, the current list I'm reading from is people that are free agents after this year.
Immediately.
Yes.
Immediately. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Kyle Love.
No, he's too old.
Greg Van Roten.
Same thing. No, I think we still need to I think we need to address that in the draft.
Kyle Allen.
No.
Doesn't matter.
How about this one? Joey Sly.
He'll be a cheap one too.
Yes, he will. And then hold on. Okay, go ahead and answer
I think we bring him back. He's been a pleasant surprise to me.
All right, then here's the list for next year. Cam Newton.
Yes.
I think we all want him. Dontari Poe.
Old. Oh, no. Like, you can only keep a couple of these dudes. And I would rather keep Poe over Addison. And I know that that's crazy at this point. But is that, like, I think that at the D end, I mean, God, you really need somebody better.
It really depends upon the direction of the organization, who we bring in. If they decide to switch it back to the 4-3 as opposed to the 3-4, whoever we decide to have defensive coordinator, I think Mario Addison's a better fit than Dontari Poe is. So,
I'll just name off 3 more people that round out this list. Greg Olson, Christian McCaffrey,
yes,
and Taylor Moton.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. He's a good depth piece.
I think too is, to me, the way answers these questions is what's the future. You know what I'm saying? Is not what do we just want from today and tomorrow, like that next season, but what's the real future of investment? And to be honest, I don't know if Shaq is the answer. I'm kind of at the point where it might be time to go load up in a top. If we get a 15, you know what I'm saying, 17 pick, sometimes you can get a dominant ass linebacker right at that spot. And maybe it's time to be getting ready for the years beyond Luke Kuechly. And I don't know if Shaq Thompson is enough.
Here's the thing. I think Shaq Thompson is basically Thomas Davis in a younger body. And the reason I say that, Thomas Davis was originally a safety?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what he was originally. And so what I bring to the table is Shaq Thompson was billed as an all-purpose linebacker. He's great in coverage. He could double as a safety, or he can simply just be the linebacker. Well, guess what happened to Thomas Davis after his ACLs? He became a linebacker. It took Davis coming to the linebacker position to be good. And it was later on in his career that we decided he was just this incredible linebacker. I think getting rid of Shaq Thompson, he's going to go somewhere else, and he's going to be like Quan Alexander, where he just balls out for another team, like Quan has for San Francisco. Until he got hurt.
You said, Cody, you said we were on the precipice of a rebuild. There's really one answer to it. Is if we don't have Cam next year, it is a rebuild, a complete rebuild.
Yes.
Well, but my point being and bringing that up was, look how many of our most important positions I mentioned. We're talking about our right tackle. By the way, throw Curtis Samuel into that list. I don't think I mentioned him. That's another player. I mean, we're talking about 2 of our starting edge rushers. We're talking about 2 of our starting defensive tackles. I mean, there are a lot of if we don't re-sign some of these players, we have to either find their replacement in free agency or it's another player position that we have to draft. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I don't ever want to be that dude, and I'm not advocating for tanking, but I'm saying the more games the Carolina Panthers win and we're not the Super Bowl contending football team, it doesn't really do anything for us. Like, if we win the next 5 games, which that's a big time if at this point, and go 10-6, and we're the first team that loses if we narrowly make it into the playoffs, which I kind of don't think we are.
I think 11 wins you have to make it.
Yeah, you're talking about you're missing a whole slew of talented players. And then who do you trade to acquire more picks? I don't know, man. At some point, you have to start thinking about the future of your football team. And if you're going to rebuild, how does that work and what does it look like?
Batista C-Man says, don't want to develop a losing culture. And I agree with that. That's what I mean by the stink. Now, let's go to the final point of the question. And to me, this is largely the biggest referendum. And I agree with him in this, is that I think Ron Rivera is just gone at this point. I think Cam Newton is likely to stay if he's healthy. I think that the Panthers would be foolish to part ways with him prematurely. And even if you keep him on the roster right to the last second and then you say, oh, well, we just can't do it because you're not available, that's one thing. But I do not believe that I tell you one thing, is that Ron Rivera is not the answer in developing any quarterback. You know what I'm saying? He's had Cam Newton. He's had Cam Newton his whole time. So if you want to see this, is you got a number 1 draft pick and a guy who turned out to be sensational, and people still arguing about how he isn't developed as a quarterback. You're trying to tell me I'm not, and the caller did not say this, so I'm not implying that. I don't trust. That's the thing, is like seeing Ron Rivera develop Kyle Allen is like good God luck. God bless you, brother.
Yeah, that's so my thing is, I think for a coach like Ron Rivera, Cam Newton is like a wet dream. And what I mean by that is Cam Newton, he has the big play potential. The problem is he's defensive minded, meaning he wants to keep the defense off the field as much as possible. Cam Newton allowed for that methodical drive down the field with almost every drive. With his leg, if he was going to be feeling pressure, he was able to get the actual first down with his legs. He wanted a rushing quarterback because now he's got 2 running backs and he's going to rush more often than he throws. And so I think that he makes a good point as far as the marriage between the 2 of them.
Yes.
The part of this, and Cody, you would know more about this than I do, I almost feel like a high-powered offensive mind is not going to want. Now, we look at Lamar Jackson and we maybe think that that's not the case, but will not want a Cam Newton type player who is known mainly for his rushing ability while also being a above-average passer. You almost wonder if he would much rather have that pocket passer like an Aaron Rodgers or obviously a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees, as opposed to somebody who's going to constantly be looking to try to make an exit out of the pocket.
Well, and it's so funny that you mentioned that, CK, because in today's NFL, mobility is such a necessity. Yeah. It's not even about the quarterback having to be a run threat, but you're talking about people like Myles Garrett, which I know he's been in the news for completely other reasons recently, but you're talking about freak athletes on the defensive line position like Myles Garrett, like Chase Young coming out in the draft this year from Ohio State, 6'6" tall, 270 pounds, can run a 4.5. I mean, these defensive linemen are getting more athletic. Defenses are using more clever blitzes to rush the passer. The days of a quarterback being a statue and just being, standing there delivering the football. Man, those days are done, man. You look at all the upcoming quarterbacks in the NFL right now, whether it be Deshaun or Mahomes or Lamar or Kyler Murray or Josh Allen. It doesn't matter, man. You have to be able to reset the pocket. And if you can't do that, then your offense is going to struggle to adapt to what the NFL is becoming. Yeah. And the fact that we have the quarterback that set the trend for what that kind of playmaker looks like, and then we're trying to move on from him, it's almost ironic that the coaches and the people in the front office would want the opposite of that.
I would remind, too, that Don Terry Poe ran a 4.98 40 at the dash at 345 pounds. That man, I saw him chase down and make a tackle in the end zone on a 40-yard run. If anybody is earning their money this year, to me, it's Don Terry Poe at this. We're going to talk about Brian Burns in just a minute. Let's go on to the next call and see what you guys got to say.
All right, so it's Nick from up here in Mass, and I got the solution for all of our problems. First off,
grow the mustache back.
Fucking Kyle Allen out of here. Oh, kid is fucking goddamn trash. I never played football, but I can tell you right now, I can play football better than that fucking kid can.
That's a little far.
The fuck? Throwing interceptions as much as he did, especially in the red zone. What are you doing? Okay, so get rid of him.
They were on the numbers of the defensive players, too.
Sign fucking Colin for the rest of the season, just to have a fucking backup in case it,
a backup? If you sign Colin Kaepernick, you got to start him. He's better than all these guys.
Okay. Temporary solution to get through the rest of the season. Fucking fire Ron as soon as possible. Cody, you're the new head coach. Dad, you're the offensive coordinator. Cody, it seems like you have a pretty good handle on the defense. You always come in. You seem to do pretty good in the off-season as far as reading.
Look at this. Everybody hates the professor.
We'll throw you as the defensive coordinator. Problem solved. Norv's gone.
There is no room on this staff for Tony.
I think it'll work. What do you guys?
I didn't catch who all did he...
He said you guys. He said you three should be in charge of the organization.
No, he's got you as president.
I didn't hear that. Did you hear that? Anybody hear that?
No, but
okay.
Hey, listen, you didn't need to be. You're the leader, man.
God,
he wants you out there playing linebacker, bro.
Yeah, everybody likes this double Cody tag team intelligence thing that we got going on here.
Oh my God! Next call.
Hey, you know who it is. What's going on, fellas? It's a new day, and I'm feeling great. About this David Tepper interview. I love it. I love it. Cam's not going anywhere. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Cam is going to be a Carolina Panther.
We've been telling y'all this. We've been telling y'all this, too.
Listen to the conversation or read the conversation. Just for there to be good vibes and consistent vibes between Tepper and Cam Newton, and then he comes out and says, if Cam Newton is healthy, he's going to be a Carolina Panther for a long time.
Yeah,
like, that's the shit I want to fucking hear. Like, you got the media lying. I told you, don't listen to the fucking media. Trying to pass my boy, man.
Fake news.
The media was trying to get Cam Newton fired.
That is true.
That's what the media was trying to do.
They were trying to impeach that man.
Want to know why? Because Tepper ain't stupid. He sees what's going on with the turnover machine, the Terminator. I can't even call him the Terminator. It's the turnover machine. Kyle Allen, like, we ain't going to the playoffs, and that's why I said, like, we need to tank. There's no reason. We need to consider sitting Christian McCaffrey. Like, I understand he's on pace for this amazing, but I mean, I guess if he's still doing this within the next couple of weeks, all right, then, let him do what he keeps on doing. But, like, it's time to just start sitting some motherfuckers down. And, like Brett Olsen, like, I don't know if Greg here
he's
for the next
done.
year, he needs to sit his old ass down and just rest, bro. Get ready for the next season if Next season is Cam Newton's last season.
This is the end for Greg.
He already said he's going to be a Panther for a long time. I also want to
think he goes to Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Already heard Ron
Because
Rivera.
Monday Night Football is awful.
Like,
Yep.
they're gone. Finito. Adios. Bye-bye. Like, they're gone. Even if we come out to be like 9-7, which I don't think we're going to win another game this season. Because we got the Saints next. Like, I don't know, fellas. Let me know what you think, but there's a lot of great talent. That's why I'm saying, like, if we can get a top 10 pick and
it's not happening.
With the new general manager and a new head coach, like, but these got to be qualified guys. If they're not, then we should keep Ron Rivera. Because a lot of everyone's going to be, if we let Ron Rivera go, a lot of people are going to be at his doorstep, and we better, there's that old saying, you better hope, what is it, you better be careful for what you wish for. I mean, Ron Rivera has had good seasons, so let's keep that in mind. But I'm off back to work. I just fell off my break, and I'll call you guys later. Peace.
Let's talk about the Greg thing.
Cody.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say before anything, Cody, you probably know a little more about this, but this idea of being in the top 10 this year with the draft, is there really that much as far as what is needed for us as far as defensive line, offensive line, maybe a decent safety? Is there anything in the draft that is going to warrant being a top 10 pick as opposed to maybe a 15, 16, 17 pick?
Well, I mean, that depends. It entirely matters if we're moving off of Cam Newton. Because, there are 3 quarterbacks right now in this draft that I would value to be franchise quarterbacks, that if I'm putting my bias aside and just judging from a pure talent perspective, that I think would be very good players and very good quarterbacks to have on the Carolina Panthers. That being Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, and Justin Herbert. Now,
Tua's not coming out.
Well, did he say that for sure? Well, we'll see.
I don't want Tua, man. He's already been hurt 3 times.
Well, listen, this is my deal. To answer CK's question, I mean, all these quarterbacks have their ups and downs, but the main point is it depends on what. Yeah, it depends on what direction we're moving into.
Let's assume we don't. Let's assume we keep Cam.
If we don't, then a mid-round pick. I mean, you can find quality in every round of the draft. So, I mean, it shouldn't matter where you're drafting. You should be able to find a starter at least in the first 3 rounds of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just, it would be beneficial to have a top 10 pick going forward in every round. What if
What if we told you this, Cody? I'll give you a top 10 pick, but you can't pick a quarterback. What position would you pick? Not what player. If you could have your magic wand, what would be the position that would make the biggest difference for the Carolina Panthers between this year and next year? Immediate impact.
I'm still on that same shit that we were on last year. Build a wall. Build a fucking wall, man. And there are players to do it. Tristan Wirfs is a guy that I've been looking at lately from Iowa. And he's just a badass, man. Andrew Thomas. There are good players in this year's draft on the offensive line position. If it's not the offensive line position, it's one of these defensive backs, whether it be a safety or a cornerback. I mean, we're moving, like I said, into the age of the NFL where everyone wants to throw the football. And when we're facing Matt Ryan every year who throws for 300 yards on us, you want to continue to bolster that defensive backfield. How about this? After this year, no more Trey Boston. We still don't have a free safety. I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah. But that's what I was asking. I guess my main thing is the idea of being a 9-7 team and picking at number 16, 17, or 18 that much different than what we would be looking for in the draft as opposed to if we were top 10. Now, there's the argument that if there's a player that's not going to go until 16 or 17 that we're really wanting, you could trade down and then have ability to maybe get more talent in that draft. But
we ain't getting no top 10 pick. Listen to this. Here are teams that are ahead of us. Well, first of all, the Bengals have 0 wins. The Redskins have 1 win. The Giants have 2 wins. The Cardinals have 3 wins. The Bears have 4 wins. The Lions have 3 wins. The Falcons have 3 wins. The Bucks have 3 wins. And if we look at that in the AFC, 3 to the Jets, 2 to the Dolphins, 3 to the Broncos. The Chargers got less wins than us. So, I mean, in theory, if we just kind of all go at this pace going forward, Browns 4, we ain't getting no top 10. It ain't happening.
It might not. It probably will not happen. But again, like I said, man, listen, this is Carolina Panthers Anonymous. It's just the truth of being a Panther fan right now. We're not good enough to be a real contender, and we're not going to pick low enough to have a high draft pick. And you want to know what? It's going to be the same thing as last year. Atlanta is going to kick our ass 2 times, and they're still going to have a better draft.
That is insane. That's going to make me mad.
Infuriating, dude.
All right,
Absolutely infuriating.
Let's go to the next call.
Hey guys, Kyle from VA. After that embarrassing loss at home to the Atlanta Falcons once again, I think that's definitely got to be the final nail in the coffin for Ron Rivera and this coaching staff. Especially after hearing what Tepper said, about the not accepting mediocrity in Charlotte anymore. I mean, that was encouraging to me. I think Ron Rivera is definitely gone at the end of the season. I don't think he'll do it mid-season. But another thing that was encouraging to me is to hear that he wants Cam in Carolina. As long as Cam can get back healthy, then that's our quarterback, Those are 2 of the most positive things I've heard since the damn season started, it seems, man. This season has been just a cloud of gray fucking rain and cold and shit. But anyway, another thing I wanted to speak on, get y'all's thoughts on, is Eric Reed. And I don't have a problem with Kaepernick at all. I really don't. I think there's a lot of teams that could use him, and he's better than a lot of quarterbacks in the league now, but we don't need him. We have a quarterback that's just itching to get back on the field, and he's one of the most talented quarterbacks that's ever played the game, Cam Newton. And for him to sit there and after, post-game interviews and stuff, to sit there and say, yeah, I think we could use Kaepernick. Like, David Tepper already told you, we're not in the market for a quarterback, so either shut up about it, Like, we have enough controversy going on in Carolina right now as to whether we keep Cam or we let him go. Obvious answer is we keep Cam, obviously.
Thank
Kyle
you.
Allen's making the best statement possible for that case. So.
This caller is on point.
But yeah, I just think Eric Reed, man, I understand that Kaepernick's your best friend and everything, but we have a quarterback.
I mean, you're on a team, bro.
Cam Newton, so you need to get with it, or maybe it's time for you to move on, man. You're not contributing anything positive by saying shit like that.
No.
Anyways, just want to know y'all thoughts on that. And as always, keep pounding.
Keep pounding. So listen, can we, for a minute before we speak on that, which we kind of did speak on this too, a lot of Panther fans are really feeling better after hearing some of these quotes from David Tepper, because they feel like he kind of echoed the sentiment that a lot of fans have, that he wants to see Cam Newton as a Carolina Panther for a long time and win Super Bowls. And I feel like, but see, this is my thing, dude. David Tepper comes from such a dog-eat-dog world. The man is intelligent, okay? It's very possible that he knows the temperature of what the fans are feeling right now, and he might have some changes in mind that might not necessarily be so popular right now. So he's more than willing to just kind of tell the fans what they think they want to hear in order to satisfy them for the time being. I mean, that's the thing that we really don't know. And I said a few episodes ago that David Tepper is such a wild card because we have no idea what he really feels. I mean, yeah, he'll say, "Oh, I feel shitty when the Panthers lose." Well, I bet he does. He spent a lot of money on this football team, but it doesn't. I mean, it makes me feel a little bit better. But at the same time, even if that's exactly what he said, I'm not sold that that's 100% genuine.
Yeah.
I think people are running with this comment about Tepper and Cam a little too positively. I don't. When I read it, I don't hear what they're hearing. What I read is this. What I read is just this: is that he says, "Look, I mean, he actually says in a very business-like way, which is very true, is that Cam Newton. Of course, we want Cam Newton. We want Cam Newton to get healthy." But no one has quoted him as saying he wants Cam here for a long time. What I read is this: in a perfect world, Newton is healthy. He stays in Charlotte, and the Panthers win a Super Bowl. But I don't hear him just straight up saying that he expects Cam Newton to be healthy and be the future. I think it is a wait and see thing, which I think is fair. I don't even really need him to say more than that at that point when asked about that. But I'm just not hearing this idea that Tepper, this positivity that some of the people are saying.
Well, the positivity comes in that he is expressing interest in Cam staying, right?
Yeah.
That's where that's where the positivity comes. Now, the part that offers the pessimistic viewpoint that I think you could draw from this is you've got to do what's best for both sides. And that almost leads to that narrative that maybe Cam doesn't want to be here. Because if he's saying that he would like to see Cam here, and you've got to do what's best for both sides, well, that means that there's become this conversation of what's best for Cam Newton as well.
Yeah.
I think it lends a little bit to just the uncertainty of the situation, CK, is that I think is that for Tepper is that while he should say this is we want a healthy Cam Newton gives us the best chance to win for the unforeseeable future. But I think this is that, and maybe he means this, but it does open the door. Maybe he just means this: if Cam Newton's healthy, we can't hold on to him just because it isn't healthy. We can't just hope that he magically becomes healthy. So, like, his health will dictate our decision going forward a large degree, but it does seem a little more wishy-washy than people are making out.
But it's more positive than what we've seen up to this point. That's the thing. Like, I think,
well, because they've been silent on it.
Exactly, and that's the part. And I think he was forced to after that game and seeing how the fans reacted to Kyle Allen and the backlash that's come from the national media now saying that the Panthers were too quick to jump to Kyle Allen. Well, the Panthers never decided that they were going to jump to Kyle Allen. They just never said they were going to jump from Cam Newton. The national media is the one that said that. But the national media jumped on this narrative that, maybe we were too quick to jump on the Kyle Allen train. Well, now, seeing that backlash, I think he was forced to do this interview, then make there be some light at the end of the tunnel for Panthers fans to say, hey, listen, Cam Newton is always and will always be the guy as long as it's good for both people. Like, if Cam Newton wants to be here next year and he is healthy, I could see a situation where he is the main priority. It's not going to be a situation where if Cam wants to play here and Kyle Allen wants to play here, well, who do we pick, guys?
No, that's not. And I would argue that I don't even care if Cam wants to be here or not.
Yeah,
like we got you for another year, and you want to sit out. Yeah. Go ahead. I mean, like, if you sit out, then we're in the same spot as you getting injured.
If Cam Newton doesn't want to be here, it's not because of the football team or because of. This is what I'm thinking. If Cam Newton doesn't want to be here, it's because he feels that there is something here in Carolina that's not going to allow him the best opportunity for success.
You mean Ron Rivera?
That tells me Ron.
How would you feel if Luke Kuechly came out and said that? Because I think he could. Like, at what point do we start wondering if Luke Kuechly is going to feel like that, and he just wants to be a Patriot?
Well, listen, a lot of players might feel like that. A lot of players might want to be a Patriot just to win a Super Bowl and ride off into the sunset. You don't know, but I think Cam Newton wants to be a Carolina Panther. I think Cam Newton would be more than willing to quarterback the team under a new head coach. So our first caller mentioned this. He said that Rivera and Newton are married together. So if one of them goes, then the other one's probably going to go.
That's a shame, though. There's no way the Cam Newton should survive Ron Rivera.
Well, absolutely he should.
You know, that's a shame.
Do we believe that's going to happen?
Yes, I do. I believe that.
It's just from statistically speaking, I mean, just from the form of logic, and this is something I've brought up before, is Cam Newton right now, before the next year starts, assuming he doesn't come back and ask for a better contract than what he's got currently, he is paced to make over $10 million less than the average franchise quarterback in the NFL is right now.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
It is a bargain. So here's the thing. You can sit there and roll the dice, trade Cam, maybe get another first-round pick. Maybe you bring in a quarterback that has the possibility of being a franchise quarterback, which let's take a look at what happened last year with theirs. You know, we had Sam Darnold. He's not really showing much as far as ability yet. He could definitely develop, but 2 years in, there's not much there yet. Then you have Josh Rosen. Josh Allen has shown flashes. He hasn't been the guy. He hasn't been somebody. He's not winning because of that team. The team's not winning because of him. They're winning because of that defense, and he's just been able to be an asset there. And these are all guys that were high draft picks. So let's just say you have a 20% chance of picking a guy who's going to be able to contribute within the next 5 years. Well, the problem is you have a 50% chance of having a Cam Newton healthy who's going to be able to take you farther than we've gone with any other quarterback in franchise history, which is getting to the Super Bowl. I think that Cam Newton has that capability, and to write him off now is just premature.
There is only one way you don't go Cam Newton. You don't go one more year with Cam, and that is only if somehow you can find a way in not having Cam and having the top pick. Like, I mean, top 5 to where you undoubtedly, and not on that, just getting a top 5 pick isn't enough. You got to believe that there's a guy there that's going to work. We don't need to be in no situation like the damn Jacksonville Jaguars who got the damn first-round pick and they go pick Blake Bortles, and there was nobody there that was worth it. There was nobody there in that year that was worth being a quarterback. Just because you have a number 1 pick doesn't mean you have a franchise quarterback available. Now, I don't know if there is that the case, but what you're saying, CK, makes a ton of sense. And that is this. Without Cam, this team gets worse immediately. Immediately. And you know what? That's going to happen whether he gets hurt or you cut him or you trade him. The team is going to get worse next year without Cam. So if you are going to go life without Cam, it has to be with the certainty that you are decided that you want to go in a specific direction. You don't just go, oh, well, let's just try to see what we can do without Cam. That makes zero sense.
Do you agree that we don't get a first-round draft pick for trading him anyway?
Yes, totally. Maybe unless who's the team that would do it?
Dolphins had 3 first-round draft picks.
Cam Newton is just as much of and this is why people in the media have been driving me absolutely crazy. Like I said, I watched a little bit of Cowherd this morning, and they were talking about how bad Kyle Allen has been and throwing 4 interceptions, and then they feel like Joy Taylor, who, by the way, is bad as fuck. That's beside the point. Says, well, I feel like they've already moved on from Cam Newton, so really it's not Kyle Allen and it's not Cam Newton. But I'm like, hello, no one from the Carolina Panthers organization came out and said that they were moving on from Cam Newton. The media has so promptly said that the Panthers are moving on from Cam Newton. That was
and that's CK's point. They need to shut that shit down.
Yes.
CK, you're getting a clap for that because they do. Because the team, and I think this was Tepper's point, but it's still kind of, I don't know how it came across.
It's too vague.
Yeah.
It's too vague. But.
Is that like, for us to say either or at this point would be silly. It's like a dumb thing. It's like, don't worry, we're going to get more information in the next 4 months, but we're going to make the decision now with less information.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. All right, here's the next call.
What's up, Tony and Cody? This is Carl Van. was calling to say, I'm so tired of losing to the damn Falcons. My hate for the Falcons extends beyond the moons of fucking Jupiter.
I agree, bro. I agree.
I mean, I can't get over this shit. I'm so tired of losing to the Falcons. That's all I got to say. I don't have nothing else.
Thank you. You know what? Fuck the Falcons. I hate those motherfuckers. And I tell you this, is I've been watching the Falcons beat my team my entire life. And what I mean by that is the Falcons haven't just beat us all the time. We've actually gone in their house and put some moves on them and stuff. But I had to deal with Michael Vick in college in Virginia Tech coming to ECU and stomping all over my college alma mater. And then the asshole goes to the Falcons and stomps over the Carolina Panthers for the next decade, for like the next 8 years, where we drafted Thomas Davis singularly to spy on him. That is why we picked Thomas Davis, to spy on Michael Vick. And then we got to go through this long ass period afterwards where they still are fucking with us, dude. Why can we not beat these assholes?
It's so annoying, man. I don't know. And listen, so it's funny that Carl Van is the caller that we're kind of talking about this with, because it's like I don't want to put everything on Kyle, because Kyle has been pushed into a situation that he wasn't built for. He wasn't really prepared for. He's done a serviceable job in the meantime, but now he is a starting quarterback for an NFL team. So when he isn't doing enough as a football player, it's not us shitting on him when we're pointing out very real flaws. So there's a tweet that I retweeted from a guy named Hayden Winks. There are 37 quarterbacks with 100 dropbacks. I'm going to put a stat daddy tonight in the absence of our boy Greg. Here's where Kyle Allen ranks. PFF has him graded 34th. PFF passing grade, 34th. Adjusted completion percentage, 30th. ESPN QBR, 30 of 32. EPA per play, so that's EPA per play, 34th of 34. Will Greer is only owed $3 million over his rookie contract. How have the Panthers not at least seen what they have in him yet? And I'm going to keep on going back to this, man. That game did not have to be as bad as it was. Dare I say, that was a worse performance from Kyle Allen than San Francisco. I mean, that many bad plays when it mattered the most. It's as soon as our offense has an opportunity to do something, Kyle Allen just shows that the moment is too big for him. Yeah. And it's not really his fault because he's been thrust into this situation. But at the same time, man, this is not a quarterback that is helping our offense and helping our defense get off the field.
And you know what's different about it too is most people are going to point to him having gone 5-0 in his first 5 starts. Well, the problem with that stat is that when you're a defense, you have to play him as though he is a field general. You've got to assume he's able to read defenses, and so you have to be honest. Well, now there's 5 games of film where defenses are seeing exactly what we're seeing, where he is coming to the line. He is literally hiking the ball with no adjustment. He's not reading the defense. He is taking his first read, maybe occasionally his second or third read, and then there is no other aspect to his game. It shows that the coaches aren't trusting him. It shows that the coaches have simplified the playbook for him. And so what that means is now, guess what? You don't have to worry about throwing the ball deep because he is not able to throw the ball very far. All you have to do is worry about loading the box to stop Christian McCaffrey because your man coverage is going to be well enough because that ball is going to fall short even if you are beat down the field. So there's so many defensive. That's why you see this all of a sudden happening as of this, recent, 3 or 4 weeks that we've been having. It's not because he was just degraded to a bad quarterback. It's that he's never been a great quarterback. It was never the case.
I was
if
up.
You take out his.
Good.
I was just going to say one more statement from an article I read today, which is you take out the Arizona game, he's averaging 6.5 yards per attempt. Okay, now that's pretty bad, being that the only people worse than him are Josh Rosen, Mitch Trubisky, and somebody else who is really bad. So that's just not a good company to be in. So I fully support Cody's point that Will Grier not being in that second half of that game against the Falcons was a grave error, and we need to really be holding some people accountable for that.
It feels like we haven't won against the Falcons in a bazillion years, because you write off the last year at the end where we beat them. But it's not as lopsided as I thought, or it feels like.
We didn't beat them.
Didn't we beat them on the road last year?
No.
Or was that the Saints?
Saints.
Okay. So we lost this past week. Falcons we've lost it at home against them a ton. The
last time we beat Atlanta was in 2017 at home when Julio Jones dropped that touchdown pass in the end zone.
2017 Falcons lose to, all right, so 11-5 they lose at Carolina. 2017 they have just had our number at home, and pretty much it looks like period. We beat them in 2015. We blanked their asses 38-0. That seems like a million years ago. Good gosh, I'm tired of those suckers, man. I hate that team more than anybody. And I think, don't you think that losing to the division team like that really spoke to Tepper? Like,
yes,
it has to. It has to.
The excuses are running thin on how bad you look. And it sucks when you get blanked. But that's the thing, is when we lose sometimes, man, it just looks like we are broken. And then other times we're like competitive.
We find ways to lose in the most embarrassing ways that you can possibly lose.
Well, we lose on every facet, like in every category. We lost on special teams, defense, on the offense, passing. We've lost in every way that we possibly could against the Falcons. And, and even if most of the losses we have lost, it's been a failure on every facet of the team.
Agreed.
It's not just that the offense has been bad. It's the defense has not been able to stop the run or the pass. It's not just that the special teams allowed a special teams touchdown. It's that our offense can't push the ball down the field without having Christian McCaffrey catching the ball out of the flat. It's just not. It's not a recipe for success when nobody can click. And these offenses are when you talk about Ron Rivera in a perfect world, the offense is supposed to complement the defense. Well, the defense hasn't been doing its job keeping the offense off the field, or keeping the offense on the field. The offense hasn't been staying on the field, making it harder for the defense. And now all of a sudden, what Ron Rivera wants to have happen, it's just not possible.
I think that's the greatest referendum on Ron Rivera, is how the defense has slipped in the past 3 seasons. We saw this begin in 2017, truly. We saw kinks in the, we were still a defensive team in 2016 that was on the hangover from the Super Bowl. But 2017, we still have a good season, but it was not a dominant defensive season, right? And then on top of that, 18 was just awful. And I think the excuse of not having enough talent is starting to wear thin.
What you wonder too is, you see the difference between 2016 to 2017 was the move from Sean McDermott to Steve Wilkes, right? And so
Agreed.
Now you start to wonder about that, because remember in 2017 we were blitz heavy. We blitzed so much.
Yes.
It wasn't even funny. And then last year, we all of a sudden, with the exact same personnel to, the majority of the, for the most part, no blitzing. One of the least blitzed, we blitzed hardly ever, with Eric Washington as the defensive head, coordinator. 2017, we had more success than we probably, if I had to guess, we had more success in 2017 than we did 2018. But I think that once again, putting Ron as the reason for success, I think, is a little premature. I think
I agree.
Can boil down to our defensive coordinators and our offensive coordinators. And everybody wants to praise Ron Rivera for always having a top 10 defense. For the most part, those top 10 defenses came when Luke Kuechly was around, right? When you have a field general like him on the other side of the ball, that helps. And so you also have to ask the question, not just is Luke, or not is Cam and Ron married, but are Ron and Luke married to this defense, you know?
The Bills are the number 3 defense in the league right now in yards allowed.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's a great, and so, you know, one of the things that's cool about being a head coach and being a good head coach is getting good assistants. Mm-hmm. So, like, that was a plus. We shouldn't have knocked Ron Rivera for having Sean McDermott, but it has been a tremendous loss to this organization since he's been gone.
Without question.
It's really true. And it's just showing itself, and the farther he gets in the rear view. And I don't believe that Wilkes. I love Wilkes as a person, as a speaker. I think he's so motivating. He seems so smart. But our defense wasn't great under him either.
No. Well, we were not able to get consistent pressure, and that's something that we really do need to kind of speak about too. It was the ability to have a pass rush without having to blitz. So really, it kind of felt like Steve Wilkes was blitzing out of necessity.
Yeah, and we gave him a pass for it. We gave him a pass for it because he had to.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Julius Peppers kind of being on the back of end of his career. Charles
Johnson. It was CJ and Pep, and they were both in their late 30s.
And the Kraken.
Yeah, too. When we had
he was before. He was with McDermott.
Oh no, but I mean, like, that's one of the part of the top 10. Like, we didn't have to blitz because we had pass rushers like Charles
that's the
Johnson, the Kraken, and everybody. I mean,
and then Short and Starr, but let's go to the point of
came in at the same time, though, right? Him and Rivera came in together in 2011. Right?
Yes, and he had a stinky defense in 2011 and it started to get better in 2012 a little bit. He didn't have any talent, and then in 2013, that defense was a dang beast. Now, go into one other thing. What's with the Brian Burns situation, guys?
I'm mad about this.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. They're playing him on less and less snaps, literally in favor of Wes Horton and F.A. Obada and Bruce Irvin. I mean, this is it's the same old Ron Rivera. We have a young, talented player that isn't seeing enough snaps. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Ian Thomas or Cameron Artis-Payne, but now we're doing the same thing to our first-round draft pick. I mean, listen, he made a point even in the locker room. It takes a while to get into a rhythm, and to get into a rhythm of, timing your rush, knowing when you're going to do this or how you're going to react. And when you're a young player like that, snaps are valuable. You're never going to learn and grow into that player that you can become if you're not playing the damn game. So Ron Rivera has this tendency where he does not feel comfortable about our defense unless he's playing more veteran, older players. And it's a detriment to our football team. It's a detriment to every part of our football team because it's a ripple effect. Every one position group affects the other. And Brian Burns, and then people are talking about his wrist.
Yeah, speak on his injury. Let's speak on because right now some information has come out that there are some more complications to his injury than people thought, or maybe not complications, but
then he shouldn't be playing at all.
That is my point. That is my point. Is Christian Miller should be getting the number? Getting a jersey then. If he can't play more than 5 snaps, then you don't need him. Then it's too dangerous for everybody. It's not helping anybody.
Right. So that's why it's nonsensical. If he is healthy enough to play football, you put Brian Burns in and let him do what you drafted him to do. I mean, the dude is an incredible athlete.
Yes.
Let the man play. If you're
Yeah,
not going to let him play, and then if you're going to use the injury as a knock on him, then he shouldn't play at all.
That's
See,
how
the problem I have too is you have Brian Burns expressing frustration, right? Because he feels like he is able to go. And in my opinion, and I know this isn't all about what the player wants, you have to also look out for the player sometimes. But
way to start now.
I know, right? If you're going to play him for 15% of the snaps, that means you're not really that concerned about the health of his hand. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If you were really that concerned, he wouldn't be active at all. And that's what frustrates me the most, is because there are so many. There's only so many people who get opportunities, right? And if you think that he isn't healthy, he's got talent. And we saw that the first half of the year. And just because Bruce Irving is on the squad doesn't mean that Bruce Irving deserves every snap. And that's what they've did. They've decided that Bruce Irving is the one that should be in there. Yes, he's a veteran, but I think
he's pretty good. He's pretty good, but he's not even to that disciplined against the run, and he's 33.
That's the problem. He isn't a great football player in the aspect of knowing what he sees. He's great because he's athletic. He uses his athleticism as a way to be where he needs to be at most times. So that's why you see him actually in the face of the quarterback from time to time, but you don't see him making a lot of smart decisions because he is mainly just running. That is what he does. And as he's getting older, his ability to do that is starting to diminish. So I think if you're going to put him in, I think it's fair to put him in there. We signed him for a reason. I think he's done really well. But you cannot let your first round draft pick, who was a offensive or defensive rookie of the month in September, just because he's had this injury, if you think he's not healthy, get him out of there. We don't want him in the game at all.
And you notice how there's always some excuse. So last year we were having the same conversation about Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
And then Ron Rivera said, oh, well, he had the heart injury and we didn't want to put too much on him. And yes, of course, I understand that. But if you're going to play him, if his heart is healthy enough to play football, then use the player as he should be used. All last year we were screaming, where is Curtis Samuel? It shouldn't take a player's third or fourth year for them to turn on and see what kind of player you have. Isn't it funny that we're still wondering about what kind of player Shaq Thompson is? We're still having questions about James Bradbury. Some of us love him, some of us hate him. But there are all these players that we draft, and then almost at the end of their contract, we have no idea who they are. Mm-hmm. And now it makes me wonder, has it been Ron Rivera this entire time? I just think that this entire coaching staff, they can't get the most out of their draft picks. And that is one of the most important things that you have to do. And,
well, there's only been one they've been able to do it with. Christian McCaffrey. They've been able to do that.
You brought up a good point, Cody, and I think I want to ask you a question about it. Did Vernon Butler get a chance to play early in his career?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he received snaps, but I mean, he had the chance. I mean, he was on the field.
It was limited in that first year, and then they dumped him in year two.
Well, we signed K'Wan Short, and we had Star Latulele, and then even after Star left, we brought in Dontari Poe, and at a time when most of us were saying, let Vernon Butler fill in for where Star Latulele was. But again, we bring in another guy. It's just our coaches are not properly developing talent.
Can I follow up on that question?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I want to follow up on this question by once again listen to Ron Rivera say what Greg Little and Kyle Allen need.
Daryl, with the veteran, I know he's coming.
You were watching the tape that you saw from Greg Little's first game back. Good, bad.
Well, I think Greg's biggest thing, obviously, is just continue to work. I mean, he's a young guy, and when you play young players, you're going to have growing pains. I mean, that's what we have him with Kyle. Kyle's played very well for us. He's had some tough games, and part of it is
why are these guys need more reps to get better, but other guys aren't good enough to get reps who, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing is that, fine. You know what? Is that if they are young and they were like, this is Christian Miller time. This is rep time for all of these cats at this point.
What about Jordan Scarlett? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This is why we don't trust Ron Rivera at this point anymore. Is because, wait a minute, these young players are a liability on one hand, and they're really good. We heard that about Vernon Butler. He's a liability out there, and he needs more time. We're hearing that almost about Brian Burns a little bit. Is that, and I don't think that he's come out, I mean, he hasn't said that, but these other guys could benefit from reps, but these guys that we think are producing, no, they're not good enough to get reps.
Yeah. And another thing that just pisses me off is this Ian Thomas situation, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, so if you look at the Ravens right now, do you know how many times they go into max protection and they'll either, I mean, so they're putting 2 tight ends on the line, sometimes even 3, and they're running the football, or if not, Lamar can check the play at the line, and all of a sudden those tight ends are receiving threats. I mean, we're talking about Greg Roman here, who coached Colin Kaepernick when Kaepernick was lighting the NFL on fire, and now he's doing the same thing for Lamar Jackson. It's like such a complete misunderstanding of your personnel. And the thing that we have to all understand is we're asking so many questions, but we need to realize Ron Rivera doesn't have the answers. Because if he had the answers, he would have fixed it by now.
Do you think...
And that's where our frustration comes from.
Do you think that there is much of an athletic disadvantage? If you just said this, if Ian Thomas or Jarris Wright was on the field as your third receiver, is there really a drop-off from Jarris Wright to Ian Thomas in athleticism? And if the answer is no, when you had 3 receiver sets, why don't you put, like you said, the third tight end out there while this line is struggling and let them chip and then break off? Why is that? I can't fathom how he doesn't get any time at all.
Yeah.
And that brings it. It's just another example. It might be, and maybe that's one of the greatest stains on the Ron Rivera era is the inability to develop talent. To develop players. Look, you let them, you put them out there, and if they fail, just think of what they did to Ben Wickery.
Yeah.
I think they did him wrong. They made a hurt-ass Ben Wickery play Julio Jones, and then they cut his ass and said he was the problem.
Yeah. And also knowing that your receivers are on the shorter end, Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Jarris Wright, you don't have a lot of big body reception guys. I mean, Greg Olsen is it. I mean, that's our big body receiver. So,
and why doesn't Ian Thomas need reps?
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. It's so hypocritical. Yep. Ron Rivera will say this about Darrell Williams. Oh, Darrell Williams just need reps. Well, where the hell is Ian Thomas's? Are you going to bet everything that Manhurts, Chris Manhurts, is a better tight end than Ian Thomas? How do you know if you refuse to play Ian Thomas?
No, but he might be a better tackle than Darrell Williams.
I do not doubt it, man.
All right, next call.
Don't doubt it.
So I have a drinking game for you guys, okay?
Man!
From now until the end of the season, okay, because God forbid, we all know that Ron isn't going to make it past them.
Is this Nick from Mass?
That long, it's going to be a goddamn miracle for him. Okay, so from now until the end of the season, anytime we hear him say that there was a missed opportunity.
Ha! Guess what? I'm busting your call because you didn't make me the owner of the team. Next call.
Dirty.
Chef Jeff here. It's Tuesday evening, about 6:30, and obviously, as we all know, Tepper came out yesterday and addressed a few things with the media. Awesome. I'm glad he did. From what I, could tell, and this is probably just my biased opinion, And I wasn't high yesterday, so it was completely, on the up and up. So I didn't have anything influencing my perception. Sounds like he's sick of Ron and wants to do the common sense thing with Cam and wait to see, when he's healthy, see what you got. Because I'm sure he knows that you don't give up on a franchise quarterback. You don't. Not until they show you that they can't do it anymore. And Cam hasn't showed us that yet. As a matter of fact, he showed us the exact opposite last year. I mean, let's not, we bring up the 6-2 start all the time. He was amazing in that on the short list for MVP. But even after his arm was about to fall off after the Pittsburgh game, he still kept us within one score in almost every single game. Kept people in the stands, and it would be sad if David Tepper didn't recognize that, and it sounds like he does recognize that. He made a statement that, we're not going to stand for mediocrity anymore, and I agree. That is the summation of the Panthers, not just Ron Rivera and the Panthers, but the Panthers in general. Just mediocrity.
Charlotte
the
sports.
most Panther thing that's gonna happen is they're probably gonna go down to New Orleans and beat the Saints this weekend, because that's what the Panthers do. And get us all back into it, and then lose another 2 games. I mean, that's been the Panthers' MO for a long time, until Cam Newton came. And even in spite of Ron Rivera, we've had some decent seasons, but they read a stat the other day that after the Super Bowl season, we're like 7-15 or something like that in division play. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Ron should have been gone last year. That's all I got to say. Keep pounding, guys. I'll be listening.
I mean, can't argue with it. Next call.
What's up, C3? Chef Jess again, real quick. Felt like I was going to get cut off by the time limit. Wasn't really paying attention to the last call. But I want to put some positive energy out into the Panthers universe. Can we please just hope that my original conspiracy theory in the beginning was that Dave Tepper had went to Cam Newton at some point and was like, look, I know that they fucked this up in coaching you and running this team. Don't worry. Take a year off. Come back healthy. I got you. I'm hoping. So we'll put that out there. That's what's happened. And like I said before, hopefully Tepper recognizes that, because Ron Rivera's gone. And you can't get rid of your head coach, your defense coordinators, offense coordinators, and your general manager and your quarterback all in 1 year and expect to do anything. Like, you're going to want to see if Cam Newton can still do it, because a franchise quarterback is far and few between. You look at these other teams around the league that are been searching for 30 years, some of them, for a franchise quarterback. And we still got one that's probably healthy and could probably still play really, really good football if given the opportunity. And let's just hope that David Tepper has recognized that. Sounds like he kind of has a little bit. He's definitely on the fire Ron Hill with me and Cody and everybody else. So keep pounding, guys. Talk to you later.
Maybe if here to add to your conspiracy theory, Jeff, is maybe that's why we don't see Cam Newton with David Tepper. It's part of their part of their shtick. Part of the routine is like, hey, I can't look close to you at this moment, but don't worry, we boys. And y'all are way too into Caroline Cam. Way too into this girl.
That's a tall drink of water, boy. That's refreshing right there.
I tell you what, is that when you're on a staff of 90,
I don't even give a damn.
when you're surrounded by 90 dudes, of course you're a tall drink of water. Like what we've been looking at Bill Voth, Michael Strickland.
Nah, Tony,
this
you
and that.
Man. Okay? Nah, you hating, man.
Y'all too crazy. Y'all are too crazy over her. Yes, I mean she's all right. She's all right.
She's a little more than all right, I think. But I'm not in love with her.
I gotta say, why the long face, personally, but okay.
No, you're trying to give her the Sarah Jessica Parker treatment.
Another beautiful Tuesday night. Well, it's not that beautiful up here in Mass. It's like kind of soggy out. Like we had some cold ass rain, and now it's not that warm. So it's like 30-something degrees. So it's not a beautiful Tuesday, but it's a Tuesday. Something I really liked hearing this week. I think a lot of us read the article yesterday from the Riot Report. David Tepper's own words. Every time we have a loss, my mood is shitty. I dig that, man. I dig that. I dig that big time. That's not the mentality of somebody who's going to settle for losing. Obviously, as he said himself, he's not going to be happy with mediocrity. He's not going to have it. You can't blame him. And really, to hear that as a Panthers fan is kind of a refreshing thing because, as we all know, and God bless Mr. Richardson and his family for giving us this team, bringing us this team, but there was a lot of settling. It was like, all right, we got a team. And that's kind of it. As far as my opinion on Richardson, he was happy to have great players come and stay in Carolina, but whatever really came of it, 2 Super Bowl losses. So I'm glad to hear we have an owner it sounds like he's kind of bent on this is going to change through what's here or I'm going to make it change. I like to hear that. Also good to hear, well, and for me, in my opinion, I think it's good to hear that he's not sold either direction really on Cam. And in fact, well, to be honest, it kind of sounds like he wants to hang on to the man. Like he doesn't really want to have a Cam-less Panthers team. It sounds like he wants to give Cam every benefit of the doubt he can and let the man get healthy before he makes even a judgment or even a thought about it. So I just flat out like that mentality as well. As far as moving the stadium and new stadium and all that, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak too much. I don't live down there. But I got to say, Charlotte is the place for it, obviously.
Yeah, warm weather city.
I'm running out of time, boys. I'll be right back.
He'll be coming back. What was I going to say about David Tepper? Oh, what would you say? I don't even want to give any credit to people that are saying, like, oh, I'm glad to see him not moving on. You don't quit a job before you got your other job lined up. And that's what I feel like the media wanted us to do with Cam. It's like quit your job because you had a bad day at work or a bad month. Your like boss is being an asshole, but you have a mortgage. You've got all these people depending on you, and then you walk out and quit with no prospect of getting a job in the immediate future. I think that's foolish. Let's see.
Much of the conversation is foolish.
All right, next. It's Josh
anyway,
again.
Josh again. And I was speaking about the whole stadium thing. And again, I'm not a resident. Don't live down there, although someday I'm eyeballing the area. But regardless, Bank of America is a great place. Honestly, I obviously live in Massachusetts, so I've been to Gillette Stadium, and on vacations and stuff, I've driven by the Ravens Stadium and the Jets Giants Stadium. So I mean, it does hold its own in quite a few ways, but it's also not like an ultra modern place. And I think while Charlotte is a perfect place for the teams that play, I don't know if I feel like the location is an imperfect, perfect location because the traffic ain't bad. You can actually get out of the city pretty easily after a game. At least the 2 times I was there. But it's like, well, there's no room to grow there. It's not a huge parcel of land that the team's really got in that it's kind of like a weird little armpit between downtown and getting to not being into downtown. So I could easily see why he wants to do something new. And I mean, I think it's what we're going on 25 years old. This place is. It's about time. You know, and I'm sure it's not getting any cheaper to take care of. You know, and after looking at last week's game against Atlanta, you know, I'm really starting to feel like the coaching situation is getting worse. And I think the reality is like last year, Ron lost the locker room. After we lost to Pittsburgh, and then we lost, Detroit the very next week, or Tampa Bay the very next week, we lost to them. And I think that was it. I think that was really the beginning of him losing the locker room. And I think it's already started happening this year because, you know, the team is without its natural leader. It's without Cam. And that's where a lot of energy comes from. That's where a lot of everything comes from. I think, you know, you get a high-end guy like that on the team, and a lot of guys want to play up and try to put their best forth because they see what a player like Cam is doing. But anyway, I'm about out of time, and I'm not going for 3 calls tonight. And no, I'm not going to rip on Tony's non-existent mustache. Y'all have a good night. Love the show. Keep pounding.
God, y'all are silly. Y'all are silly. Next call.
Yes, Mr. Frost out of Salisbury. How y'all are doing today? I just want to say, actually, I got a question. Is it possible that we get rid of Ron but keep Marty? I mean, on paper, what Marty did this offseason was pretty good. I mean, it seemed to be one of the best off seasons we've had in a long time. And I don't think it's really Marty's fault that Ron can't run a team worth of shit. I mean, he just refuses to play certain players and will stick with other ones for some reason.
Didn't Marty hire Ron, though?
I don't know what the deal is with him, really, but I love what you're doing. Keep it up. Keep pounding, and please, God, get rid of Ron.
Well, yeah, he did hire him, but you also, I mean, can you hold something? I mean, does that mean that he can't fire him? Theoretically, you know, and I do think that's a good point. It kind of just sucks, but it's the reality. Is that if Ron goes, Marty goes. It's just time for everybody to go, and that sucks for Marty, who we think has done somewhat of a good job. Everybody has been pleased with the drafts. They've been pleased overall with the free agency, but it has been just a shit show from there on when the ball goes to Ron's court.
I think Tepper's ready to overhaul and ready to get his vision of what the Carolina Panthers are moving in that direction pretty quickly. So honestly, the fact that Hurney is the one that hired Ron, I think, is probably going to be a part of his downfall as well. As much as I think that Hurney has done a good job, and if you look at the talent that's on this team, a lot of it has to do with Hurney making those decisions. But I think with the unfortunate aspect of him hiring Ron and the mediocrity that has been Ron's tenure with the Panthers, I mean, I could see a scenario where he's not going to trust Marty Hurney to put the pieces in place for us to be successful moving forward.
Time to move on from everyone, man. Yeah. Everyone. Brand new coach, GM. I'm just ready for a new vibe here at Carolina.
Next call.
What up, Panther Podcast? This is T from Florida again. The only thing that I want to bring up or say is that I just feel like we should give Cam another year because, you know, we've seen what Cam can do without talent around him, just as an athletic quarterback or just off of raw talent. And then now we're seeing what Ron Rivera is as a coach. You know, once you remove Cam from him, I feel like Ron was positioning himself to make Cam the scapegoat, to buy him some more time at Carolina. And I feel like, you know, a lot of the narrative about Cam, you know, being out, you know, could have been addressed at his level, but instead he's, walking out of conferences, when people are asking questions about camp. And I felt like he was, trying to position that Cal Allen was the future. And then now that everybody is seeing it, I feel like now, Tepper has to speak up now because everyone's seeing that, Cal Allen is not the way to go. So I just feel like, you give Cam another year because we've seen how his numbers improved under a new coordinator. So under Ron Rivera's tenure, with the addition or subtraction of a coordinator, makes all the difference with how this team goes. So maybe he's not the right person for the job. So, I just want your thoughts on that.
You guys take it.
I'll let you go, Cody.
Well, CK, you kind of jump in first on this one because I'm still kind of collecting my thoughts a little bit.
Man, I think I'm all talked out, man. I don't know what else to say, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think we've been saying the same things, right? I mean, and that kind of says the same thing that, is that we know it's like the mustache. We know what it could be.
Yeah. Hi, guys. This is Carl D. I don't know if I'll make tonight's show, if this call will. Anyway, Cody, I heard you talking about we see what we got in Will Greer. From what I've seen, Will Greer is a shit show in himself. This preseason, playing against third streams, fourth streams, even second streams, Will Greer still wasn't doing that much. So I don't see Will Greer is definitely is a wasted third round pick to me. So throw him in there, but the results more than likely going to be worse than what Cal Allen did. Tony, one thing I do not want to hear anything from the outside media and the Carolina fans who said get rid of Cam Newton because we have Cal Allen. I do not want to hear none of them calling themselves apologizing. You know what I say to them? You all can take your apologies and stick it up your bleep. That's what you can do with your apologies. And yeah, we should give Cam a chance if he's healthy to show us what he got. And I have to agree with the other guys. Okay, yeah. What I have to tell, no top 10 pick. I agree with you, Tony. We're not going to get a top 10 pick. That's the sad part. Which reminds me of like the Charlotte Hornets. Was good enough to maybe make the playoffs, but we're not going to. But being there in the middle of the pack, we're not super bad enough to get a high pick. So yeah, it's crazy. And Cody, Ron Rivera, bye. So that's all I gotta say. I'm just ranting.
Bon voyage.
Keep pounding.
Thanks, Carl D, man. We appreciate your support. We appreciate the support of the people in the chat room, listening on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Smash the thumbs up button and be a participant in the show by calling in 252-228-5098. We're really running out of kind of steam at this moment. I think Cody blew it up with this whole... just lit it up, should I say, in the chat room with all this Carolyn Can stuff. And it just has gone sour.
Took a turn.
I'm a moron. I apologize. I like dumb shit.
And it's just gone off the chain, off the rails since then. So We do our weekly picks in the division, and right now the Panthers got the Saints, and I'm gonna tell you this: is I don't know how you could pick the Panthers at this point against the Saints, and I think you would be. And I mean, look, as we could because we're all homers, and we just and that's sort of why everybody assumed we were going to beat the Falcons last week too, not because what we see all the time indicates that, but the Saints, man, they win, and they win. Except for when they play the Falcons. Obviously, I'm picking the Saints.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. And we're in the Superdome. I'll take New Orleans. I don't know, man. How many points are they going to put on this defense? I'll just say 34-17.
17 points, man. We couldn't score a touchdown against the Falcons.
Well, we couldn't score a touchdown because Kyle Allen was apparently not realizing that he wasn't on the Falcons team. He was just hitting the defenders in the numbers, dude. Like, he was spot on with those. Just the wrong people.
I don't know if you catch the Saints sleeping. My score, yeah, I'm saying 27-13. What you got, CK?
If you pick anybody other than the Saints in this, it's crazy. But I mean, this is just like somebody said on the calls, or maybe it was you, Cody. This is just the type of game that Panthers win and they shouldn't, and then still do nothing later on.
Exactly.
But I still think we lose. I think it might be a little closer. I think Drew Brees is on the decline. I think you've seen that. I think he's been able to manage, but he hasn't been the reason they've been winning. But I say Saints 28, Panthers 21.
Bucks at Falcons. This is a game the Falcons. The Bucks can win, right? If the Saints, if this is one of those strange ass games, I don't know. Is both of these teams suck? I'll let you guys pick it first.
Well, do they though? Because sometimes they suck, and then sometimes they're a badass football team. I mean, who knows who either of them are?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a toss-up. Where is it at?
It is in Tampa. I'm pretty sure.
I'll say...
yeah, it's in Tampa. Which, actually, they play worse at home, bro.
Yeah.
Just like the Falcons play worse at the home. I'm picking the Falcons on the road, 3 in a row.
I'm going to say Tampa Bay, 30-24.
I'm going to say Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to win 35-32. The Bucks trying to lose. They're trying to get a new quarterback for next year.
24-17. And what's the over/under on Jameis picks? Who has more picks, Jameis Winston or Kyle Allen?
Jameis Winston.
Yeah, Jameis.
Jeez.
For sure, Jameis.
You got to remember, Kyle Allen didn't throw a pick in his first 4 games.
And Jameis Winston threw a pick on his first pass of the NFL.
Yeah.
I think it must have been. It felt like it. I feel like, you know how we used to think that Cam needed to get a little dirt on his jersey to start feeling good, right? Yeah. You should just run him. It's almost like Jameis Winston needs to throw a pick just to get it out of his system. Like, just go ahead and do it on the first play. All right. That's it. You guys got anything else before we ice some people up?
That's about it for me, man.
All right, cool. All right, join us. We'll be actually. I don't know if we're gonna have a post game this Sunday. If we can, it will be without me, and I'll have Cody having to power up all the stream and stuff. So we'll see. That's gonna be tentative, but we know you guys will be around if we got it. If not, we ain't gonna miss Tuesday night next week. Let's go ahead and ice some mugs up. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
All right, well, go
ahead. Charlie's Angels just premiered at the box office and flopped like a fish. And the director, Elizabeth Banks, wanted to blame it on these damn men that don't want to see women in action films. when in reality, it's Hollywood is pumping out these old reboots of brands that nobody gives a shit about anymore, and it's tired, and no one gives a damn. It has nothing to do with people being misogynist. Hollywood is played out, no more ideas, and it's the dumbest shit in the world. Blame yourself, blame your lack of creativity, ingenuity, and stop with this PC bullshit. So to Elizabeth Banks and all the SJWs, ice up, son.
Does anybody on this podcast, and I know there are people in the chat room that might, but does anybody even remember Charlie's Angels? Like I don't.
The original, no.
Yeah, no, it's before.
No, hell no.
Like that's like saying let's.
After the movie came out with them, but
yeah, what if you like rebooted I Dream of Jeannie? Like no, I mean no, that's like a reboot that should have done 50 years ago. It could have been right. All right, my ice up pick. I'm ready for this, and I know the person that I'm icing up. I guarantee you that they're going to listen to this podcast because they know that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm not going to say your name, but you know I'm speaking to you. And my first thing is that really my ice up is directed to people who want to have a quote-unquote conversation on Twitter, and their method of conversing is the quote retweet. The quote retweet is not a means of responding to someone. It's not a means of having a conversation in good faith. The quote retweet is used for a couple of things, and you guys let me know if I've missed any of them here. But number one, I would quote retweet something if I wanted, say, one of you guys to see a tweet that I don't know if you had seen. So I would quote retweet it, and I would just at you in the quote and say, check this out, look below, or maybe not even say anything. But for the majority of time, or I might quote retweet and say, this tweet is awesome. But the majority of the time, a quote retweet is meant to be like, I'm looking down at this position. I am too cool to respond to you on an even par, eye to eye. But instead, I'm intellectually superior to you. So I'm going to be a sarcastic asshole. Because that's how I use it. So, I mean, that you are trying to be a sarcastic asshole when you try to quote retweet everybody because you think you're smarter than people. And I know, I know this is that when you do that, you don't want to have a real conversation. It's not authentic. It's not meant to be like, hey, let's see where we differ in different things. It's just meant to say I'm smarter than you and I think I'm right. And you know what? And it goes to show you, you mentioned this earlier, CK, in the show, while we're at this divisive point when it comes to Cam Newton or Kyle Allen. It really comes to this, is that American society is at this juncture just in general. And, or at least it certainly feels like this in my everyday life. And that is, people already know what they want to believe. And they don't really care what you want to say, what you got to say, or what you think, or where we could kind of find common grounds, where we can't, where we can. No, it's just me. I already know what I believe, and I'm going to tell you what I believe. And so to you guys who, and you know, there's a couple of people out there, you see they always do this. And today I ran into it again. Just someone who's pretentious on their high horse about this, is I'm smarter than you, and I can't just honestly engage with you. So to you people, I say ISO. That's it. I had a lot more to say about it, but I'm not going to lose any more sleep or anxiety or anything over this dumbass stuff. If you guys want, and I just want to know, let every single person in this chat room and that's listening to this podcast, is I look at every individual with equal dignity, and I expect you guys to live your life like that too. All right, CK, you got anything in that meantime? Maybe something a little lighter?
Yeah, maybe I'll make this a little lighter. You know, I'm buying this house. Well, they've put the siding up and went by there, and the siding is 2 different colors. And
at your house?
Yeah, at the new house they're building, by the way. And so the siding's two different colors, like, and it's on the same side, by the way.
And it's not on purpose.
It's not on purpose. And so I contact the builders. I'm like, hey, you guys, there's the siding that's messed up. And they say, all right, let me talk to the superintendent. Well, the superintendent comes back and he says, oh, well, that's a manufacturer issue. We need to contact the manufacturer. And I'm sitting there thinking, as a superintendent, your guys put up this siding and didn't take a fucking look at the job when it was done to see this. That took me 2 weeks after the siding was up to see it. And it's noticeable as shit, dude. It's not even like, anyway, the fact that this process is taking so long for them to be able to figure out what to do about this siding that clearly is a mismatch, clearly as the light of day, you could go up there and just drive by it in a matter of a second and see that it's a mismatch. And they're still taking their sweet time trying to get it fixed. I say ice up to everybody involved, superintendent, manufacturer, but mainly the guys who installed it who didn't take time to admire their own work to say, man, I did a good job on this shit.
Yeah, because they couldn't. And on top of that, don't let them slide, dude. Don't let them slide. Don't give in. This happened to my mother-in-law. You don't mess with my mother-in-law. This happened to her 20 years ago. They came in and hung her wallpaper upside down. The birds were upside down in the bathroom. And they tried to ask her if she could live with it. Screw that. Stick to your guns. One color, one shade. That's all you need when it comes to the siding. All right, guys. That's it. That's the C3 Panthers podcast. Look, Susan, thank you. The Den Mama, I'm sorry you had to witness all this. You witness sometimes you see, you're a real mama. You deal with the good and bad of your children. That's what it is.
We're hoodlums. We're a bunch of hoodlums.
Yeah. But we got our moments that we're kind and good, and then we got our other moments where we're little petulant, little spoiled brat children who make fart jokes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Actually, this is Susan. I don't know if Susan has a son. I know she has a daughter. I think that
fart jokes.
Yeah.
By the way.
Boys. It turns out boys fart jokes never get old to boys.
Never.
Totally not.
Never.
I mean, and you saw this. Is that and you saw that? What was it? You saw the response it got in the chat room. That's because people thought it was funny. And on top of that, there was one other thing: is that go watch the Poot gender reveal. It's a joke video. It's a joke video. But that right there is exactly what Cody is envisioning for his child to look like.
Yeah, baby.
All right, that's it. We're out of here, guys. We'll be back at the very latest Tuesday. Look for tweets and announcements from us around Sunday. On Sunday, see how the post game is going to go, and to have no fear, I will be working in the airport on the fantasy football stuff. Guys, we'll get it right. It will be done by the time kickoff on Thursday, and you'll know what's up. All right, guys, we out of here. I'll see you guys later, and keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
All right, all done.
Word.
I don't know what prompted me to type that. It just felt appropriate.
Oh, so funny.
It reminded me heavily of a southern saying that just should not exist.
Dude, I've heard so many of those. Like, I'd jump into a pit of HIV-infected needles just to smell her soiled underwear.
Oh, God, that one's terrible.
just dumb shit, dude.
My favorite one that I heard was a Leah video came out or something, and she was twerking, and the guy in the chat said, I would like to press my tongue against your butthole as you fart so it makes a balloon sound. And I was like, God, dude. I was like, this is what you jerks think about? Oh, my God. Y'all messed up.
Wasn't there a really funny one on that video for that, the one you were talking about, the gender reveal one? That was a really funny comment I think you responded to, Tony, that was, like, hilarious.
Oh, probably. I've watched that thing like 200 times, dude. All right. I gotta get out of here.
So many questions.
I gotta get this show. Yeah. I gotta get the show up. I'll be traveling tomorrow. You guys be safe. All right.
Hey, you too, man. You be safe traveling.
All right. Peace out.
Okay, here's how Miro works. See, it's amazing. What's everyone doing at David's desk? Ever since marketing started using Miro's collaborative online whiteboard, he thinks all our other teams should sign up. Why? He says Miro's making his meetings disappear. And if every team gets on it, that means even less meetings. They're using Miro for brainstorms, mind maps, customer research.
So could we use Miro instead of having another 100 meetings for every round of feedback?
Yep. You can comment, react to ideas, even leave a recording on the board.
And what about presentations?
There are Miro templates for that.
How do you know so much about Miro?
I've actually been using it all along. I just used a Miro board to plan the best vacation.
Okay, I'm on board.
See how Miro users save up to 80 hours every year by meeting less and doing more. Get on board at Miro.com with 3 boards free forever. That's MIRO.com.